The descent into Carthan 9 wasn't what you'd call smooth. The dropship screamed through the planet's molasses-thick atmosphere, its hull groaning like an old man with arthritis in a hurricane. Wind shear clawed at the stabilizers, lightning danced inches from the cockpit, and somewhere in the back, Sergeant Bruno Taggart laughed like he was riding a roller coaster. "Is this the part where I scream or pray?" he bellowed, half his words swallowed by turbulence. Captain Rhea Solari didn't flinch. She gripped the co-pilot handle with one hand and tapped a classical jazz track on her neural HUD with the other. "Do both," she said calmly, eyes scanning the impact vectors. "Pick your god, screams at it, and then lock in landing thrusters. We've got 10 seconds. Below them, Carthan 9 seethed. A death world by every galactic classification. Gravity fluxes, acidic storms, bioluminescent jungles that eat metal, local fauna that hunted by mimicking your best friend's voice. Even the tectonic plates shifted like living things. And that was before you tried to walk anywhere. The dropship slammed down with all the grace of a sack of bricks tossed from orbit. Metal groaned, dirt erupted, and silence finally fell. "Well," murmured Dr. Malik Ong, unbuckling from his shock harness, "we landed. Technically." "You're welcome," Rhea said dryly. Bruno patted a side panel that was still steaming. "She's still in one piece, ish." Talia Alvarez was already at the hatch, her hair tucked beneath a bright green helmet covered in hand-painted stars. She stared out at the landscape, wide-eyed. "It's beautiful." Malik joined her and squinted. "You mean the blood-colored moss, the acid pools, or the carnivorous vines currently wrapping around our landing gear?" "Yes." She smiled. "All of it." They deployed the shield dome in under an hour. It shimmered faintly, a hexagonal cocoon of energy pulsing against the thick emerald fog. Inside, the humans moved like clockwork. Captain Solari barked logistics with the efficiency of a conductor. Energy coils, perimeter beacons, portable labs. She oversaw it all with a soldier's precision and a leader's calm. Malik set up the biosensor array, fingers dancing across a modular tablet as he calibrated toxin filters and atmospheric analyzers. His brow furrowed when one monitor displayed unknown pathogenic activity. Yes. He shrugged and set up a secondary barrier. "We'll probably grow a third lung before breakfast," he muttered. Talia found a patch of moss emitting a harmonic hum and started sketching it, completely unfazed by the fact it was inching toward her boot. Bruno unpacked his rifle, spat into the wind, and declared loudly, "If something tries to eat me, I'm eating it first." Their mission was simple on paper. Establish a foothold on Carthan 9. Survey for usable neurothite veins. Survive long enough to file a report. Every other species that had tried? Dead. Vaporized. Digested. Or driven mad. The Galactic Alliance had written the planet off. Too wild. Too dangerous. Too alien. So naturally they called the humans. Because when nothing else works, throw a species that conquered their own extinction at the problem. Night fell fast on Carthan 9. Not that you could really tell. The sky remained a bruised shade of violet, split by occasional lightning arcs that sizzled across the atmosphere like cracks in the dome of a god's patience. Inside the dome, the crew ate heat-packed rations. Talia doodled something between a squid and a fern. Bruno sharpened a knife he'd named Lucy, and then it screamed. The noise pierced every skull in the camp, a perfect replica of Malik's voice shouting from just outside the dome. "Help! It's got me!" Except Malik was sitting right there, frozen mid-bite. Talia dropped her sketch pad. Bruno grabbed Lucy. "Stay put," Rhea ordered, already pulling on her suit. Thermal scan. Outside, through the haze, a shape moved, 7 feet tall, too many limbs, covered in scales that reflected light like oil on water. It crouched low, repeating the voice again. "Help! It's got me!" But this time, it used Rhea's voice. They didn't fire, not immediately. Rhea stood just inside the dome's edge, staring at it. It stared back. Then, without warning, it mimicked her tone again. But this time, the cadence changed. The phrasing softened. "Don't!" Talia stepped forward, ignoring Bruno's hissed protest. She crouched near the edge of the dome, slowly removing her glove. "I think it's curious," she whispered. "It's a murder mimic, Talia," Malik said tightly. "Best case. It wants to see how your liver tastes." But she didn't back down. She placed her hand, palm outward, on the shield's edge, and the creature, slowly, mirrored her. A long, jointed appendage tapped against the dome's surface. Then it made a new sound. Not a scream. Not mimicry. It sounded like music. Like the moment passed. The creature vanished back into the jungle. No attack, no trace, just a warning, or a greeting, maybe both. Rhea stood in silence, thinking. Then she turned to her crew. "Tomorrow," she said, "we find out what it wants." Bruno raised an eyebrow. "What if what it wants is us dead?" Rhea smirked. "Then we make it reconsider." Above them, the stars of 1,000 civilized worlds blinked down. Safe, orderly, sanitized. Down here, on this boiling rock of teeth, acid and mimicry, humanity had just made first contact. And true to form, they didn't discriminate. Not even against Deathworlders. At 0400 local time, the jungle sang. Not birdsong, not insects, but something deep, like whale calls bouncing off volcanic stone. Dr. Malik Ong stirred from his cot, stared at the ceiling of the dome, and sighed. "Either I'm dreaming, or the trees are harmonizing in D minor." Bruno snorted from his bunk. "That means they're plotting. Trees only sing before a hunt." "Maybe they're just lonely," Talia mumbled, half asleep, curled under a thermal blanket with sketches strewn around her. Captain Rhea Solari didn't comment. She was already suited up, crouched beside a data pad, reviewing heat maps of the creature from last night. No spoor, no tracks. Just a lingering electromagnetic pulse where it had touched the dome. Alien. Intelligent. Curious. And, as of now, unclassified. The Alliance would have sent drones and explosives. Rhea sent breakfast. They placed the rations, meat cubes, rehydrated stew, even a protein bar outside the shield dome on a heat stone. Bruno added a tiny Earth flag for flair. "Let's see if Deathworld Freddy likes fusion gumbo," he grinned. Rhea gave strict orders. No weapons raised, no sudden moves, and no stupid heroics. She didn't name names. But Bruno saluted anyway. The team watched from inside the dome as the jungle held its breath. Then something slithered from the shadows. Not the same creature from before. This one was smaller, sleeker, with shimmer-scaled wings folded tight against its sides. It sniffed the air, stepped forward, ate. Malik's sensors flared. Low-frequency bioplasmic field. This one's not just intelligent, it's broadcasting. Broadcasting what? Rhea asked. Curiosity, he replied, blinking at the neural overlay. A primitive psi signal, like a question. The creature tilted its head, looked at the dome, looked through it. Then it projected a perfect phrase into their minds, clear as day. "What are you?" The silence that followed wasn't fear. It was reverence. This wasn't an animal. It wasn't mimicking speech. It was asking. Talia stepped forward, her hands open, slow and deliberate. She took off her helmet and knelt near the dome's edge. "We're called humans," she said softly. "We're explorers. We came to learn." The creature blinked. It took a step closer. From the tree line, larger shapes moved, hulking silhouettes with eyes like molten glass and legs like roots. Watching. Waiting. Bruno reached for Lucy. Malik tensed. Rhea raised a hand, stilling them both. The small creature extended one wing. A shimmer ran along it, like neural pulses in water. Then it projected a single image into all their minds. A buried city, cracked, ancient, pulsing with light, beneath the jungle dying, Malik gasped. "That's a neurothite core. They're not just living near it, they need it to survive." "And they're trying to tell us," Talia whispered. "They think we can help." The signal snapped. The creatures vanished again. For a few stunned moments, no one moved. Then Bruno cleared his throat. "So, to recap, we just made telepathic contact with a species that can grow crystal cores, mimic speech, and knows what a protein bar tastes like. Anyone else feel underdressed?" By midday, the jungle pushed back. Not the creatures, the planet itself. Tectonic readings spiked. Geysers belched steam in irregular patterns. Gravity flux in Zone Delta rose by 3%, enough to knock out their supply drone mid-hover. It crashed hard. "We've got instability brewing underground," Malik warned, scanning fresh data. "If that core collapses, this region's going full Pompeii." "Translation?" Rhea asked. "Planetary burp. Big one. Everything dies." They had two options. Pull out now and abandon the site, or go in and stabilize the core the old-fashioned way. With humans being humans, option one never stood a chance. The jungle resisted their passage. Every meter forward meant cutting through biomechanical vines or dodging bursts of spores that corroded sensors. At one point, Bruno fell waist-deep into a sinkhole. He emerged covered in glowing blue slime and holding a tiny crab-like creature. "Name's Susan," he announced. "Tried to eat my face. I respect that." "Put it down," Malik said. "She's riding with me." Surprisingly, Susan behaved. She perched on Bruno's shoulder, clicking softly, occasionally batting away acid droplets with her claws like a seasoned trooper. Talia whispered, "Even the wildlife wants to help." They reached the ravine at dusk. Beyond it, embedded in a mountain's cracked belly, pulsed a neurothite formation the size of a cathedral, fractured, unstable, and glowing with furious energy. Crawling over it were the creatures, dozens, maybe hundreds, singing in subsonic harmony. The city Malik had seen, real, half-buried, alive, but so was the danger. "That thing's gonna blow," Malik confirmed. "Unless we vent the pressure manually." Rhea adjusted her visor. "Gear up. No one's dying today." "You always say that," Bruno muttered. "One of these days it'll be true." They descended. One human, one botanist, one engineer, one wild card, and one angry little death crab named Susan. As they climbed down the ravine, into a cradle of living stone, the creatures parted like a silent choir. Some lowered their heads, others reached out, not to stop them, but to guide. Because somehow, against every odd, they trusted the humans. The Alliance ship arrived uninvited. It descended from orbit like a silver judgment, its hull gleaming with diplomatic authority, and just enough mounted weaponry to remind everyone who thought they were in charge. Captain Rhea Solari didn't even look up as it landed. 3 days too late, she muttered, still wrist-deep in neurothite stabilizer wiring, and probably here to screw everything up. Talia raised an eyebrow, crouched beside her with a biosample container. "Think they'll help?" "No," Malik said flatly, entering from the ridge with a sensor pack slung over one shoulder. "They'll panic. They always panic when something doesn't fit the manual." The ramp hissed open. A perfectly groomed Grell diplomat descended first. Ambassador Vrix Talvuren of the Third Concordance. 3 arms folded behind his back, his elongated face locked in a polite expression of concern, or possibly constipation. He was followed by a full complement of armed escort drones, 1 xenobiologist, and a mobile translation beacon. He didn't acknowledge the crew's salutes. He went straight to Rhea. "Captain Solari, you are in violation of Protocol 749C, he announced, establishing unsanctioned contact with a Category Red xeno-life form that qualifies as a containment breach." Rhea didn't rise. She twisted one final bolt and stood slowly. "Ambassador, that containment breach has a civilization older than half your charter's pages, and it asked for our help." The xenobiologist, a twitchy-looking Avathi named Dr. Nell, stepped forward. "The mimics have no recorded language, no cultural structure. We believe their behavior is reflective mimicry, not sentience." Malek tossed him a data chip. Updated recordings, psi-trace patterns, harmonic speech matrices, also a sketch of one playing with a crab named Susan. They're very much alive. The diplomat stared at the chip like it was radioactive. These readings are unverified. We require quarantine protocols, evacuation, then orbital sterilization. Bruno, standing nearby with Lucy on one hip and Susan on the other, cleared his throat, loudly. Sterilization? He said. You mean blowing up the only living civilization on this rock because you're scared it talks funny? It's procedure. It's genocide, Talia snapped. The creatures, silent observers from the trees and cliffs, stirred as if they understood. The jungle hummed low and deep. And just like that, the Alliance had picked a fight they didn't even understand. You have 36 hours to clear the zone, Vrix declared. Or we deploy emergency suppression. With that, the ambassador turned on his heel and marched back toward his ship. Back inside the dome, tempers flared. We can't just abandon them, Talia said, pacing. They trusted us. Malik leaned over the command table. Even if we stay, we don't have the resources to shield the neurothite when the planet shifts again. It needs an energy reroute from the central vents. I might maybe be able to do it, but I'd need a multi-phase conduit rig and 6 hours with 0 interruptions. Rhea nodded. You'll get it. Bruno cracked his knuckles. Guess that means I'm on Alliance stall duty. You volunteering for diplomatic cover? He grinned. Let's call it aggressively polite persuasion. They made their stand the next morning, while Malik and Talia ventured deep into the core, guided by the creatures and guarded by the largest of their kind. Bruno and Rhea confronted the Alliance patrol unit head-on. Captain Solari, this is your final warning, came the voice from the comms. Withdraw or face consequences. She tapped her mic. Define consequences. Moments later, a drone barrage fired. Warning pulses. Not lethal, yet. But close. Bruno stepped forward, holding a crate of glimmering neurothite in one hand. You shoot that energy source again, and you'll destabilize the entire sector, he called. This planet's got veins running deeper than your warship's logic circuits. One drone advanced. Susan leapt off his shoulder and landed on it with a shriek. The drone sparked once and died. The Alliance backed up. Meanwhile, miles below the surface, Malik's breath fogged inside his helmet. The neurothite pulsed all around them, thrumming with a sound like a heartbeat in crystal. He planted the final conduit. Power reroute in 3, 2. The pulse shifted, the planet shuddered, then settled, and the neurothite sang. Above ground, the sky split it open in color. Vines blossomed in spirals of light. The creatures, deathworlders, predators, mimics, sang in chorus. Not fear, not mimicry, gratitude. A frequency so pure, even the Alliance's stiff diplomatic feed stuttered in awe. Talia emerged from the ravine, her eyes wide with wonder. They gave us their name. Rhea turned. What is it? Talia smiled. They call themselves the Vash-Ti, those who remember stars. Bruno pointed skyward. Let's hope the Alliance remembers this too. The diplomat stood stunned, his drones inert. Captain, he said slowly. You may have just redefined First Contact Protocol. Rhea folded her arms. We didn't come to define. We came to listen. Maybe try that next time. The jungle bloomed where the planet once bled. Vines that had attacked sensors now grew translucent blossoms. Toxic spores that once hissed against the dome's filters turned phosphorescent, fluttering on warm air currents like glowing dandelion seeds. It was still a death world, sure. Still dangerous. Still untamed. But now it was singing. Not with warnings, but with welcome. Rhea Solari stood on a stone overlook with her helmet under one arm and a datapad in the other. Behind her, the team packed up what little gear hadn't been fried, melted or buried by seismic tantrums. Malik, she said without turning, give me the final tally. He stepped beside her, tired but smiling. Core stabilized. Secondary vents rerouted. The neurothite matrix has entered what I can only describe as cooperative regeneration. Cooperative, she echoed. He nodded. They're fixing it with us. Or maybe for us. I think they understood what we risked. Down in the ravine, the Vash-Ti moved with purpose, clearing pathways, rebuilding crystal nodes, guiding roots like they were fingers on a harp. They remembered. A few meters away, Talia crouched near a younger Vash-Ti. The creature shimmered in iridescent blues as she sketched, translating its shape into soft lines and curves. They don't forget faces, she said, eyes still on her notepad. They don't forget voices either. That's how they remember. Sound, pattern, emotion. The creature blinked at her, then made a low, throaty trill. She repeated it gently. It lowered its head and pressed its crest to her hand. At the edge of the clearing, Bruno sat cross-legged in the grass, tuning Lucy's plasma coil with Susan nestled on his lap. She clicked her claws rhythmically, a chirping beat that the Vash-Ti had begun to echo back, like a tribal song passed down through instinct. Little monsters got fans, he said with a grin. Susan raised one claw dramatically. A juvenile Vash-Ti mimicked the gesture. Bruno nearly fell over laughing. By sunset, the Alliance ship lifted off. No bombs dropped, no sterilization, no protocols forced down throats. Just one formal apology, begrudgingly delivered by a red-faced ambassador Vrix Talvurin, and a string of passive-aggressive footnotes filed to the Galactic First Contact Registry. Rhea wasn't worried. She'd already sent her report, complete with data, biosignatures, psi-communication proof, and a recording of Susan eating a diplomatic drone's antenna. That last bit had surprisingly high entertainment value. As the ship vanished into orbit, Rhea finally let herself exhale. That night, the humans slept outside the dome. They shared a fire with the Vash-Ti. Not because they had to. Radiation shielding was still safest inside, but because it felt right. The stars above the jungle pulsed gently, distant and warm. Malik looked up at them, his voice soft. When I was a kid, I thought we'd conquer the galaxy, prove we were the toughest species around. We are, Bruno said between mouthfuls of ration bar. but we just don't have to scream it. No, Talia murmured. We show it. Rhea added nothing, but she looked around the circle, at the firelight reflected in alien eyes, at hands and wings and claws, all resting side by side, at the stillness of shared survival. This right here, was what humanity had always been best at. Not just fighting, belonging. The next morning, the Vash-Ti made a final gesture. They brought forward a crystal, softly glowing, smooth and warm to the touch. They placed it in Talia's hands and surrounded her in a half-circle. She looked at Malik, uncertain. What is it? He scanned it, frowned, then blinked. It's a memory, a song, encoded. He tapped his wrist pad. Audio hissed, then cleared. A voice filled the camp. Not human, not Vash-Ti, but both. Echoes of the jungle, pulses of emotion, the sound of first contact, encoded forever in harmony and rhythm. You came when we fell. You stayed when others fled. You listened, not with weapons but with hearts. You are remembered. The recording ended. The silence that followed was reverent. Rhea swallowed the lump in her throat. Did they just give us their anthem? They gave us their trust, Talia whispered. When the team finally departed, the Vash-Ti gathered beneath the trees. No farewells, just the same low hum of acceptance. The humans didn't wave goodbye. They just nodded. Because this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Months later, the Galactic Council Hall was full. Delegates from 1,000 systems sat in silence as the floor hologram played its final note. The anthem of the Vash-Ti echoed in ancient stone. No one spoke for a long time. Then the Terran ambassador stood and said simply, "They lived on a world designed to kill. But when they met us, they chose to trust." He glanced around the chamber, "And we chose to be worthy of it.